Good morning. Our hand today is going to be A6. Folds around in the cutoff, who open raises to 3. He's playing 19-14 over 37 hands, not a very large sample size, and you can see the cutoff is 1 out of 4. His raise first in stats 1 out of 2. So we just don't know what he's going to be playing. I'm going to say 24% looks something like this. This might be about right. It might be different. Construction might be a little bit different. It's kind of hard to say. But we do know if he's at 19, he's probably playing tight early position and then a little bit looser. So less than 19% over on these positions, and then more than 19% on these back positions. So I think we're going to go with 24. It folds around to me, and the big blind and I just call. And we could talk about this decision. So I think this is a possibility where we could easily try to re-steal with A6 clubs. That's definitely, we've got the ace blocker. If called, we're suited, so we have that. The downside, though, is that we only have a flush, or we only have an ace, we only have the flush draw if called. I think it might be a little bit better if we had a hand like ace 5, ace 4, ace 3, ace 2 in terms of the low suited aces, because that gives us the flush draw and a straight draw along with it. And actually, when we look at our range here, ace 4, ace 5 is supposed to be a 3-bet here. Ace 2, ace 3 is a 3-bet or call. So all of these are 3-bets or call. Versus an unknown player, definitely we could attack them. In this case, I went with just a call, hoping that perhaps I'm going to be able to pick up the pot on the turn. So I flop somewhat favorably, at least for ranges, and then we can pick it up on the turn or possibly on the river. So our flop is 8-6-4, which is definitely interesting. Gives us middle pair. I think this is going to hit some of our calling range. It could also hit villain. Downside is that we don't really have any over pairs, so trying a check raise isn't really going to make sense. If we do a check raise, it's going to be trips. It's going to be straight. It could be a all-out bluff. If villain would put us on a bluff, which we could do. I think 6, middle pair is a little bit too strong to execute a check raise here as a bluff, but it's not strong enough to do check raise for value. So I think our check is perfectly fine. Villain bets 3.2. I think villain's probably going to be doing this with a big part of his range. Obviously, there's no high cards. I think it's typical that people who c-bet this. Over the last couple days, I've considered not c-betting this board when I'm in position. When I have, let's say, overcards, and when I have, let's say, over pairs. We bet we should get a high number of folds or a high percentage of folds. So, when I have jacks, when I have queens, I bet. All I'm going to do is pick up the pot. Whereas if I check, maybe, small blind or big blind is going to be betting, and we could pick up that extra bet just by doing a delayed c-bet. So here we're going to say he might be betting at least all of his pairs. Let's say, all of his pairs. Let's give him, gut shots. Let's give him 2-card backdoor flush draws. That's a lot of flush draws, 2-card backdoor flush draws. And as far as the overcards, let's give him the aces. Let's give him the king, queen, king, jack, and queen, jack. Let's give him those cards. So we're at 85.4%. This is just kind of arbitrary. He might not even have all these 2-card backdoor flush draws. And actually, let's take those out. Let's say he doesn't play those. So we're at 77.5, which seems reasonable. What should we do? I don't like the check raise. I don't think we could ever really check raise on this board. I think a check raise would be hard to get called by anything other than, let's say, maybe aces and kings. And even then, if I was in this spot and got check raise, I'd probably fold those unless I'm up against a player that I know is a strong thinking player. Like this guy's orange. He's, you know, gotta be worried about him. He's playing 22-15. He's a loser, losing player right now over 2,000 hands. But I think when we look at his flop check raise, 13%. So he actually might be check raising a little too much. That might be his problem. Let's see if we've got somebody else. This guy, I bet he doesn't check raise a whole lot on the flop. Yep, 6%, 2 out of 34 check raise on the turn. 0. This guy, if he check raises, he's got trips. So that's if we were switched. Definitely, you know, we have to be concerned. I just don't think a check raise is going to accomplish much. So I think we're going to be calling. What are we going to be calling? I think we're going to be calling with our pairs, probably even the bottom pairs, maybe even the pocket pair below the boards, calling to see what turns. We do have half the deck we have to worry about, so anything 10 or higher is going to be concerning to us. But just because we get a 10 or higher doesn't mean that hit the villain. So I think we have to think about what kind of turn cards are we going to be betting here. What type of turn cards are we going to be betting? And I think maybe even our 2-card backdoor flush draws. So let's finish getting these out. I think we're going to be doing those. Probably not king 2. Okay, let's go those. Okay, so let's think about our situation here. So ace definitely helps. It's going to help our range. Queens, jacks should be helping. Oh, hold on, no. So yeah, ace helps us, but it doesn't necessarily help our range. So we're looking for 9, 7, 5. We're looking for low, even a 3 or 2 is probably going to be useful for us. So I think moving forward, if we get one of these favorable cards, and I'm going to say probably a 10 or lower, then I think we should probably lead into him based on our check calling range. I think that would probably be something that we should do. So I did call. The turn was a king. Unfortunately, I don't think that's a favorable hand for us. It is. You could see kind of like, let's go back here, take that out. It is somewhat okay. Ace, queen, jack isn't so much, but I don't think the king is a hand that we should necessarily be leading, but maybe we should. Based on villain, like we think he's going to keep with the aces and not have a huge number of kings here. I'm guessing I checked. I think I checked here and then villain bet. So I think I play. If we're going to play this with the king, we should have probably bet, and we should have probably bet for about that amount to see what villain does. If villain raises, we could probably let it go. If villain just calls, we're going to have to really consider what to do on the flop. But villain bet here, I think that is definitely helps his range. It really does help the perception of his range. So I am expecting him to fire a bet here. I think, I don't know most players. I know I would continue fire. Well, yeah, I would continue firing these gut shots, open-ended straight draws, because the king helps our range, perceived range. We're betting all of those as bluffs. If they fold, hey, great. We didn't have to hit our hand on the river. If they don't, oh, that's not too good. So I'm betting middle pair for value. Pocket pair less than the second card. I think I'm still betting. That is part of our gut shot draw. And then the weak pairs are only being betted if they're part of our gut shot. So I think that's going to be his betting range. And then the question is, well, what do we continue with? Here, I continued with the 6. I kind of looked at this king and said, okay, well, I think it's less likely that he continued with the king. So I did call with the middle pair. you know, and the A6, I probably would still call with the middle pair. Could I check raise? No, I don't think that. I don't like the check raise because there's really no other draw. If I check raise, I think I'm just representing something fairly weak. I mean, I guess I could have check raised with 4s, 6s, and 8s, but then you look again and ask, why would I check raise if I had trips on this dry board? I mean, it doesn't. What could villain possibly call with? I allow him to fold out king, queen, and king, jack. I want those hands in, so it almost seems like the better play is to call here than possibly lead for the river, and that seems strange, but you could also lead with the river on, let's say, an 8-7 or maybe even a miss straight as a bluff. So I don't like check. I don't think we can check raise here at all. And I think we're going to be giving up on a lot of our gut shots unless we're planning to continue with them and leading. And I don't know if I was considering there. So if we compare our hands versus his range, we're really looking for a 5. That's about it. And that changes. No, it really doesn't with our hand. So I think with our call, we're not gonna really be happy with anything. We're just hoping that villain is bluffing at this point. So I'm not really even sure I like this call, because I know I did call, and I'm starting to remember the actual hand. Jack of hearts hit, and I'm sure I let out. I believe I let out here. I bet 16 half pot. And the question is, what am I going to bet half pot with? I'm going to bet half pot with the straight, with the set, with 2 pair. I think top pair also probably I'm going to bet. And then our bluffs will be like, maybe like our ace high hand, our miss draws, nothing hands. So maybe something like that. So 50% of the time I'm betting. And then when we look at, let's get our groups here. You can see that I'm definitely more value than bluffs here, which I think is suitable. Unfortunately, I turned A6 into a bluff because I kind of assumed that if I check, he's going to be betting again. I really couldn't bet call again. So I kind of set my price. And again, this is kind of obvious play, and I shouldn't have done it. He did call. Question is, what's he going to call with? I think he's going to be calling with at least a pair. And the pairs could be, you know, a top pair plus. Not even sure if he has a jack. Would he call with 10? This is 5NL, so it could be any pair that he calls with. So if he calls with any pair, you can see we're about even. And maybe if he bets more, it makes a little bit more sense to check call. But if we think he's going to bet with all of his pairs, if I think he's just going to call with all of his pairs, then I'm not sure I like this, because I've got a 6 and I'm going to be beat by the 8s, by like 9s and 10s and jacks. So he does call. We get to the river. He shows the queen jack, which I didn't have in his range because we had this queen jack on the turn, and then when the king hit, we kind of, yeah, we got rid of that. So if, I mean, it's almost like he's betting 100% here. So 100%, and then on the river, you know, we're still ahead because it's 100% of his range, but he's more likely to hit, you know, these pairs. So I don't necessarily hate my river bet here. I mean, it didn't work out, but I turned this hand into a bluff. And as part of that bluff, I was really just setting my price because I was planning to call the river. So that's why I said I don't really hate it. I had an idea that I was trying to control the amount that was going in. However, I think this hand would have been better played if I led once that king hit. I think it's going to be hard for queen jack to call. It's going to seem like I might have hit a king. If he doesn't believe me, he doesn't believe me. So I could fire the turn and I could fire the river and probably lose the same amount if he decides to call. But at least doing this, it could make sense that we called with like a king 4 or a king 6 or a king 8 hand from the big blind, especially if it's suited. And we could have, let's say, king 6 of hearts, king 6 of clubs. We could have king 6 of diamonds. I'm sorry, I said king 8 of clubs, king 8 of hearts, and then king 6 of diamonds, king 6 of clubs. We could have king 4 of diamonds, king 4 of hearts. I mean, we've got all of those hands in our range, along with maybe a hand like king, queen, king, jack. So I think our better play here was just to go ahead and lead the turn. If called, fire again on the river with our middle pair. Turn that into a bluff to try to get him to fold an 8 or 9s or 10s if he actually had them. Would he do this at a 10 NL game? I think players usually fold at the 5 NL. I'm not so sure. This probably goes against the adjustments we make at the real micro stakes. All right, hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.